welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, now in our 100th year, covering the wonderful, interesting, exciting happenings of Ipswich Town. My name is Benjamin Bloom, and coming up is a lovely, beautiful hour of chat on the so far unbeaten and top of the league Ipswich Town. Welcome, old school David Diamond, on a Sunday morning. How are you, my friend?
Very well, Ben. Thanks. Just like old times, isn't it? 9 o'clock, Sunday morning recording. Oh, my goodness me. I mean, that was the norm.
Sat in front of you, David.
Yeah, true. That was the in the early days of the pod. That was the norm almost, wasn't it? Because you had to dash off to some glamorous gig somewhere, didn't you? Usually in, I don't know, leafy Surrey or somewhere like that. That was usually
the home of Penty Smith.
The home of Penty Smith, and worse, the home of Pensy Smith and the Quorn sausage roll.
Joe Fairs hasn't been introduced, and he's already managed to have a shot at fellow podcaster Mikey. That's we can see what type of mood he's in this morning. Joe Fairs, everybody.
Morning, guys.
Is that it now?
Yeah, no, I don't want to say anything else.
Immediately, Dave.
Short and sweet, yeah.
Short and sweet. Joe, I think people will be interested to hear your thoughts. Richard and I chatted about this on the midweek YouTube stream. Quick plug for that. If you hadn't realised, in between these pods this season, we'll be over on YouTube midweek doing other Q&As or post-game streams, etc. You can get involved live on that, which is really good fun. But Joe, I think people will be interested to know your thoughts on Idris El Mizouni returning to Cambridge, the attacking midfielder. We went there at the end of last season. He's gone back. You have, on the one hand, been a proponent of El Mizouni, but on the other hand, have complained about this squad being bloated for a long time. Can you give me your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because ultimately he's not in the starting 11 here and probably is going to struggle to get on the bench most weeks. So the fact he can go to drop down just one league and hopefully play regularly for Cambridge is a really good move for him personally, and is probably the best thing for his development. My only concern is that he can play sort of either of those wide forward roles or in the midfield three, sort of two forward roles there. So he's quite versatile, and I think if you lose Teddy Bishop out of that midfield three, you don't really have anyone that can just sort of beat a man and drive us forward and carry play where he can do that. He does seem to have that sort of that swagger and that confidence to be able to do things like that. And like I say, as good as we've played, you look around that team in that midfield, you sort of Nolan, Downs, Judge, even the wide players in Sears, Edwards. You haven't got players that just have that ability to just beat a man and take it forward, which El Mizouni does have. So I say hopefully he goes to Cambridge, does really well there, maybe comes back in January and contributes. But ultimately it is a good move for him, but it's a little disappointing because he's probably the one that's closest to it for me.
Dave, you disappointed?
No, really slightly, I think. I mean, I know I saw some Twitter comments from Cambridge fans and they're delighted to have him back. I mean, I think he made quite an impact there last year, didn't he? I know he scored certainly one really spectacular goal. I mean, do you think, I don't know, is it that bloated? I mean, do you think this is an indication perhaps Downs isn't leaving? Just throw that one in there. I know, as Joe quite rightly said, different player, I suppose, and more. You're right. He's more akin, more similar to Bishop's style of play, where he can drive forward, beat a man and stuff. But that was just a thought. But again, I think I agree with Joe. He needs to play, doesn't he? He needs to play, and if it's with Cambridge, I say he was really well rated there last year. I think they've had a half decent start, haven't they? I believe. I know they had a thumping win last week, I think. So look, if he's going to play and he's well liked there, then fair play. I don't think it's a bad move. And is it just till January, Joe? Is it?
It's a full season loan with a
recall,
potential recall in January.
Okay.
But I don't know the conditions of that, whether it's everyone has to agree or whether we're in charge of that or not.
Okay.
David, you make a good point about Downs, because from my covering of the Championship, we're getting a lot of indications about this, depressed market. David Brooks, Emi Buendia, Ismail Sarr, Josh King, none of them have left their clubs.
Carl
and Grant, they've all not been sold. No one's come in with the money, and they've all
not been playing. A lot of them.
Okay, you're gonna start playing now, then guys. It's happening at the slightly higher level, Dave. So there might be
Might be something in there. I don't know, but yeah, it might be something in that.
I think just the interest in him so far, it seems like the only proper interest has been from Palace, and the figures quoted are just like 1.6 million they got to. Well, it's just not worth selling at that price. So
probably not. I mean, I know we had this discussion in one of the other pods I did the other week about what is his true worth. I mean, looking at we'll get onto the game, but his body language didn't seem great to me yesterday.
And Dave as well, you know how ridiculous the week ending October the 5th will be as well.
Yeah, Christ.
Yeah. As soon it just takes one domino, particularly at somewhere like Bournemouth, to start everything falling for the higher up League One players and all of the Championship players.
Yeah, it's just if Palace were at 2.6 rather than 1.6 at the moment, you're thinking, well, yeah, they are going to get there because they're close enough to it now. But like I say, if Buendia goes for 20 million, then all of a sudden money's sloshing around the Championship, and
good point.
Something can happen, but we don't know.
You could end up with Watford, Norwich, Bournemouth, and Huddersfield all having 15 to 20 million come into their bank account within 3 days of the transfer window closing. Anyway, more ins, David. Mark McGuinness. I don't know if his agent Brenner Woolley actually got him signed after the commentary. And
Darren Ambrose as well.
Darren
Ambrose, wasn't it? Yeah.
What's your take on this? Joe and I did the post game show, and he and Balogun, the forward,
were they the two that?
Yeah, they looked
a mensch too. Yeah,
they look like decent enough players. What's your view on McGuinness in terms of a play out from the back style?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's an Arsenal. He's just
start so far.
Signed a pro contract with Arsenal, hasn't he? I think just April time. So look, he's obviously half decent player with good habits. If he's managed that, I think he's a Republic of Ireland under-19 international. Did he not? I think I read somewhere else, Joe. Did he not play alongside an ex-Town player? Was it Clark at centre half for their under-18s and something like that's got any bearing on it? But just another Ipswich connection there. He's obviously quite well rated, so yeah, I don't have an issue with that signing. Again, with our comments that we just said about potentially, El Miz going out and down staying. You would make the correlation. Well, does that mean Wolfenden is potentially on his way? Again, you read so much into that, but no, I think
you're not watching on YouTube. Dave's wearing his tinfoil hat today with all his conspiracy theories.
No, but you know what I mean. But a bit of a win-win for both, really. A bit of, certainly. Well, we're getting out obviously a half-decent young player, all right, relatively inexperienced, but we've seen from what we saw from briefly from the Arsenal game. Lad who can play 6'4", so physically there as well. So yeah, I see that as as a good thing for us, really. One thing I did mention, Joe, I saw that, and I think you picked up on it yesterday. And again, just changing the subject slightly, ever so slightly. I see that young Flores is getting some rave reviews at Arsenal, isn't he?
Yeah, he seems to be their sort of absolute main man in their under-18s at the moment, and you could see it coming because he played in their Youth Cup games, which are the absolute peak of it as a schoolboy last year, and you don't get many players doing that especially in the elite academies. He didn't
play against us the other week. He wasn't in the squad the other week for that.
No, not in that. No. But one thing I noticed about McGuinness as well, I sort of spoke to someone about him, and he really struggled last year and only actually played 3 games for their under-23s all season. So I don't know what happened to him there, but he's very, very inexperienced. Obviously, he looked really, really good against us the other week, but I think maybe those expecting him to really kick on might have to wait a little bit because I'm not sure he's quite as ready as he maybe looked in that one game.
Yeah, good point. And I think what you said about missing those games, perhaps not stepping up last year. Again, 19, 6'4". These kids with these growth spurts and stuff like that, and it really can hold them back. It really can hold them back until they almost grow into it. See what I mean? Grow into it. Seen that before.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So no, I'd say totally agree. Relatively inexperienced, but yeah, win-win, I think.
We'll get to yesterday's game in just a sec. I just want to get your. I'm sure I might get a one-word answer, but Marcus Evans speaking out on Thursday. I think a kind of puff piece with the club media, reiterating this is in response to the latest government kind of pullback on restrictions and the pilot schemes being cancelled. Evans reiterated the 10 God, I sounded so Suffolk then. Reiterated with 2 T's, not no T's.
Boy.
Get rid of it. The £10 million black hole figure and all of this stuff. Joe, anything new in that, or just a kind of very much like the government did, actually, just a reminder of what we already knew, but maybe we'd forgotten?
Yeah, it sort of brings it home a little bit, and I think there's a massive frustration because you see the piece from Evans, the culture chairman had one, and almost every EFL team, you look on their website, statement from the chairman, and they all really say the same thing. We've been spending huge amounts of time and resource trying to get our grounds COVID ready. We've done all we can with having test events, and then all of a sudden, no, stop, not happening, even though these places are probably safer to watch the game than other ones. So you've got the ludicrous situation where, is it the Arsenal game on Monday night, Arsenal-Liverpool, due to kick off at 8:15, yeah. And then they bring the kick-off forward to 8 o'clock so people can watch it in a pub before this new 10 p.m. closing time. So you can sit, so everyone go to the pub and watch it, but you can't sit in an outdoor stadium. Like I say, I know there are issues with regards to sort of public transport being used to get places, but ultimately it's now becoming a restraint to trade to the football industry, that they are being told they're not allowed to trade as a business, even though they've put the steps in place to make themselves COVID safe, which every other business has also had to do. So the government is going to have to start helping out the industry, and it's fine to say, oh yeah, well, Chelsea spent 200 million, so clubs don't need it, but that means absolute F all basically to clubs and EFL who desperately do need the help from the government.
It's got to start trickling down from the Premier League somehow. I mean, it was disappointing when wasn't yesterday supposed to be our first sort of test event with 1,000 fans potentially? I know we spoke briefly about that, or I think I heard you guys speak about that, about how that was actually going to work, and I guess it was just going to be a ballot of how that was going to work. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, all very disappointing. And Christ Almighty, if this goes on as the government is saying till next March for the next 6 months, my God, I mean, there are going to be and the necessary funds aren't available to the clubs, then there's going to be a handful, I'd say, of more berries. Certainly will be.
And if we're saying we're going to go to March without fans, then is there really any point bringing them in for the last 4 or 5 games?
Probably not. Just to quickly jump in, no one has actually said we're going to go to March without fans. That's
Rick Parry said it on the radio that's what he's expected if things don't change.
Yep. Yeah, that's the position we're in at the moment. Yeah. They've gone to a new load of restrictions and the worst case scenario. And without putting my tin hat on now, I can't understand why the Prime Minister would literally outline a length of time if he wasn't sure that something was going to happen in, like, if I know something's possibly coming down the pipeline in 3 months, I'm going to say, this might last 6 months to buy myself some time. I just can't understand why.
Have you heard any of the communication from the Prime Minister over the last 6 months? COVID was going to be sent packing in March. And things like that. So I wouldn't really listen to too much of their communication.
Tell you what, guys.
You take my point though, Joe. It's I don't. They've been very nondescript with, we've not had this may well be, we've had, it'll be 3 weeks and then we'll find out the day before whether we're going to work for the next 3 weeks or whatever. So
tell you what, guys, look at the bigger picture. I'm glad I'm not a student.
Yeah.
Hey, try being a bloody musician. Hey, let's not start on my sob stories, but there we go. Let's go to yesterday's game against Rochdale. So off the back of a 2-0 win over Wigan and then a 2-0 win over Bristol Rovers, 0 goals conceded, maximum points. I'm just going to go to a quick question, Dave. This is from Andrew on Twitter. Has Dave found anything to shout crap at yet? Because
two things. Certainly 2 things yesterday. One, Enciala's distribution, which was beyond crap. It was pretty much beyond crap. Perhaps a little bit unfair. No, I'm not actually. Enciala's distribution, particularly in the first half, the first 20 minutes, my word. And and the old chestnut, which is Freddie Sears free kicks, which are becoming as hilarious as a Larson Toure corner, I think. I mean, honestly, come on. So I've got to say those 2 things. I think I said worse than crap yesterday when watching it. My God, very frustrating.
Joe, we got a couple of questions, and before you take this, I'll help you out by prefacing this by saying we don't know the answer. We are speculating, but we often get asked about the empty stadiums, and will asked just going into this, would we perform better or worse with fans in the stadium? Matty also asks on Twitter, do you think playing without crowds allow the players to play with more confidence, knowing they're not going to get a big moan? Despite the fact I did find the Blue Monday WhatsApp group a little bit moany in the first half yesterday. I logged in, I thought we were about 4-0 down looking at some of the comments in there. But Joe, on the stadium being empty.
I think Mick Mills made an interesting point in the commentary yesterday where he said that sometimes in a game like this, it's almost worse the stadium being empty because you can't ignore the manager at any point, where sometimes he's just shouting at you all game, where you just can, if there's a crowd there, you can just pretend to not be able to hear him and just play your own game, where he said in these sort of games it's difficult because he knows you can hear him, so you have to listen to him. So, but I don't personally think, I think once they cross that white line, ultimately they're professionals and they have to play it. It might have impact later in the game, but I don't buy this that the crowd are making a big difference or no crowd are making a big difference. I think there's certain periods in games where you're trying to chase to get back into it and you're building up a little bit of pressure that when the goal doesn't come, the fans might be able to keep you going a little bit. But I think at the moment it's not making a huge difference.
I think it works both ways, and I think perhaps you can get the negative vibes from the crowd. I think you can, Joe. These players can sense the crowd getting edgy. My God, it's think back to last season, for Christ's sake. The crowd getting edgy when, particularly at home. I mean, what we won up to Wigan, 11 games in 50 or something ridiculous. So I think you can, especially when we all said the games last season, the possession that the other teams had. We went long periods at home without having the ball. It's just the style of play we played last season, and you could hear the crowd getting edgy and impatient. So I think to a degree, I think there is probably a bit of that. They're free from that to a degree, although perhaps it hasn't quite been worked that way because we're playing a different style this season. But yeah, it's an odd one. I heard Mills say that. Yeah, that was quite funny. Yeah, funny comment.
I think I and a lot of people would advocate, Megaphone Man who walks around outside the ground. I think Dave should be allowed in with the megaphone. Can I just say to listeners, I've been to loads of football matches with David Diamond. The crap thing is not a gimmick we've invented for the pod. He does do that during games.
I need a new one-word catchphrase.
Oh dear, tremendous. Right, the Ipswich 11 here, guys. Holly, Chambers right back, Unciala, Wilson, Ward is the rest of the back four from right to left. Dazelle sitting in front of them with Nolan to his left and Bishop to his right. Wide right is Edwards. Wide left is Sears with Hawkins up top. Joe, your thoughts?
I was surprised not to see Downs back in the team, but I can't say I was particularly disappointed with it. And I think Hawkins being in for Norwood, I think it proved to be, but on paper it looked the right decision at the time as well, where just if you look back to the Gillingham game last week, Bristol Rovers, Norwood really didn't do a lot in the game, and Hawkins, when he came on, we did play better with him there, whether that was to do with them tiring, but I did see a stat that Hawkins had actually touched the ball more times than Norwood did, and he only played like 22 minutes last week, so he was just much more involved with how we played.
David on the 11?
Yeah, I think I certainly went along with that. I think Hawkins did make an impact. He should have perhaps scored last week with a header, but yeah, I think he made enough impact last week to retain his place. Norwood to me is just not really on it, at it. I don't know how to describe.
Just not
fit. But he's not, is he? It's just
we can make that into a house thing there. On it. At it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Bit of Wolf of Wall Street.
Did anyone see the Mick McCarthy? Sorry, I did 19 minutes before I mentioned him today. There was a Mick McCarthy house remix of his co-coms. I retweeted it. At Benjamin Bloom. Check that out. If like me, you're missing Mick a little bit and hearing his sultry voice on co-coms. Right, we're gonna play a little game really, really quickly. I'm gonna count to 3. I'm gonna say a word, so it's word association, and both say the first thing that comes into your head when I say the word. Okay, you ready? It doesn't matter if you say it at the same time. Right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Rochdale.
League 2.
Average.
Lisa Stansfield.
Keith Hill.
There you go. I was just going to say, who's your favourite Rochdale player? What's your favourite? I always end up probably unfairly whenever I get asked about small clubs, mentioning Rochdale, Crawley, Burton, Accrington. Yeah, of course. Although the Luton fans are all up in arms at the moment. Teams like Luton, it used to be teams like Brentford, but Brentford are good now. Here's your Rochdale 11, guys. I'm sure you've got intimate knowledge of this lot. Bazunu in goal, across the back, Keohane, McShane, O'Connell, not that one, Dunn, in midfield, Ryan, central midfield, Ryan, Morley and Lund, with Rathbone out to the left, Newby out to the right, and Beasley up top. I'll just quickly rattle through what went down in the first half, and then you can each give me your read on this. Decent save by Bazunu from Hawkins' header there. Dazelle and Bishop had opened them up really nicely. Hawkins' spin and volley hits the post, unlucky there. Rathbone curls one wide with the right foot from a short corner, but a corner played out to the edge of the box. For Rochdale, 56-44 in Ipswich favouring the possession. 8 shots apiece. Ipswich just kind of edging the passes, so fairly even. Dave, do you want to go first on the first half?
Yeah, we started off really well, really quite confident, and it was a sort of usual thing, sort of shades of last season to a little bit, where I think we sort of pretty dominated the first 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden you sort of notice, and watch the game for 5 minutes. So they've been in our half a lot. We've hardly touched the ball. It was again one of those. We've seemed to have a really good grip on the game. All right, didn't get an early goal, but then sort of allowed them, possession, allowed them to come back at us. And I think I saw someone comment on Twitter. I think, sorry if I'm preempting things, someone made the comment that we sort of almost let them have the ball in our half, and actually in wide areas and get some good balls in. Not that they never really chances. I don't think Holy had a shot to save, but yeah, it was a good first half. Well, I think I said on the WhatsApp that it was an enjoyable first half, considering the conditions of rank. It was windy, it was wet, it was bloody horrible. I thought it was a decent first half, and we played okay. The move from the move there, Dazelle, that had been a hell of a goal. It's just
you like that little reverse ball, Dave?
Yeah, Hawkins was a bit unlucky. He almost headed it too well. In fact, it sort of just skimmed his head. He probably planted it in the corner. Good save though, but yeah, I don't think you can knock him for that. He got everything on it, but just didn't sort of get it in the corner. So no, it was quite an enjoyable first half.
Joe?
Yeah, well, I remember watching Rochdale last season against us and a couple of other times, and I think they were one of the real teams where it was really obvious how little we did on patterns of play and regular, because they seemed to know their roles and sort of play some nice stuff. The players interchange well, and I think they're a really nice side to watch, and they play some decent football. I think the issue they have is just they don't have the money to bring the quality in, so they rely on getting a couple of decent loan players. So they just don't quite have that quality in the final third. So they work the ball into decent crossing positions, and then they just don't have the sort of quality to get a decent ball over. And like their striker was, I think he was making his debut yesterday after signing from Solihull Moors in the week. So, and he did well. He put himself about, had a couple of chances, but ultimately they can't. They then don't score, and then they a little bit brittle at the back. But when you look at the budgets in place between them, the sort of type of players we've got, it's a game where we should be beating them, and we did. But I like the way they play, and I like the way they try and keep playing. And like I say, they're a nice side to watch.
And in trying. They weren't over physical either, which perhaps they could have been a bit more. Yeah, they lost their strike, and it was Henderson, who's been there like years and scored loads of goals for him. He went, didn't he? So
ex-Norwich.
Yeah. Oh yeah, in Henderson. Yeah. So there was a decent first half, quite good. We played some quite good stuff. I say conditions were atrocious. What was quite fun, and Joe said, patterns of play and done the homework. They were quite confident to let Enciala have the ball. both centre halves. I've got to say, I thought Wilson's actually distribution at times in the first half and throughout the game. Okay, maybe one or two exceptions. Christ Almighty, he was switching the play superbly well, wasn't he?
I thought you were going to say ping then, Dave. It's
like you got to earn the ping. You got to earn the ping. But they were more than comfortable to let. Aside from that, they're more than comfortable to let our centre halves have the ball. Let's say.
There we go. Into the second half, and we are going to take the lead, Joe, on 53 here. So Ward slides it into Hawkins. Hawkins backs into O'Connell. He slides it across. Not quite sure what McShane is doing. He sort of lets it. He's
just wrong-footed, isn't he?
Yeah,
gets caught between both, doesn't he? He gets caught between.
Bishop then, with the right foot, sticks it in the corner. And we have to raise this celebration because we got asked about it. Jack asked on Twitter, why are all the ITFC players putting their fingers in their ears when they score? Chambers and Bishop have both done this now. We've had some butthurt fans. I don't know whether we've got some butthurt players here. Talk to me about the goal, and we have to raise the celebration because we were asked about it, Joe.
Yeah, goal, good little passage of football. And down that left-hand side, we were starting to get on top. Ward was getting really involved higher up the pitch, and just the quality, like the actual passing into the box where you're playing the ball into someone's feet with pace in the box, and defenders can't defend against that. And Bishop's sharp in the box, and great to see him on the score sheet again. He'd only scored one goal up until this season. He's scored 2 in 3 games. He hit the post against Wigan as well, and he's just getting in and around the box and sort of doing well. So it's really good on that. Celebration, I don't know. There's a few possible explanations for it, isn't it? The first one, Chambers did it, and I think his is quite clear that he does get a lot of stick on social media, and if you look at his Instagram account, he doesn't allow comments on it. It's just his followers can only comment. So I think.
Quickly, can I interrupt? Where does this come from? Because I've seen lots of higher level sportsmen than Ipswich Town players. Is this I'm putting my fingers in my ears to block out criticism from outside? Yeah, is that the meaning?
I don't know. Also, think like I say, so Chambers gets a bit of stick, so it might be that. But then sometimes, like you say, it becomes a bit fashionable to do something like that. Right. And then sometimes there's a team mentality of like they're doubting us and no one. And it's like you see this in the NFL a lot, and that's sort of a big trope there, where it's like no one outside this dressing room thinks we can win this game. And it's like you've won 5 of the last 8
Amazon documentaries, Joe. Shut out the noise from those NFL teams. Yeah,
it's like the Patriots, and it's like you've been to like 6 Super Bowls in 10 years, and you're coming out in the press saying no one outside this dressing room thinks we can win this. And it's like Man City coming out and saying it. So I do think it's maybe a bit of sports psychology, like don't listen to the noise, build up that.
David's been so supportive of Ted Bishop for about 5 years though, through all the injuries though, and that's obviously just representative of our podcast. You know, Bishop back. If we can get Bishop back to where he was in 14-15, but I don't think it's against the
fans. I just think it's that. Like I say, I think that's almost like COD amateur sports psychology, blocking out the noise, plus a little bit of they've all probably watched The Last Dance on Netflix over the lockdown, so where Jordan has to have an enemy of everyone, and every perceived slight is what drives him on. I do think there's maybe a little bit more of that sort of we're against everyone here, us against the world, and they're trying to build a mentality. But I don't think it's anything particularly against the fans. I think it's more the latest sort of bit of sports psychology that's coming in, like when you see players at all clubs doing it.
Perhaps they're just fed up with listening to the manager in an empty stadium. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know. Is that any worse than the sort of cup this? Or Christ knows. I think you're right. It's just something that's come from other sport, and it's just sort of caught on, hasn't it?
It's like chance, isn't it? They always filter down from the big teams down through football, and find there's about 8 chants, and that's it. And
I mean,
they're like on
the LA, where that came from. What, Liverpool did it? I don't know where that originated from.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, Bishop. Maybe Bishop. Does he feel? Well, should Bishop feel slighted? I don't know. Maybe there were people. Perhaps I think we said before he's got loads of Twitter followers. Maybe there were people on Twitter who doubted he would ever come back and would ever get to any sort of level, even first team level again. So maybe it's a bit of a slight on that, but.
I guess all the papers have had polls this week who should start, Bishop or Downs, and I think everyone came out as Downs. So
there you go.
Like I said, if you want to find a slight against you, it's quite easy to do so, even for us podcasters.
Surely not.
Many.
But do you know what though? If it has the effect and drives him on, then fair enough, bring it on.
Yeah, and we should just stand up for our wonderful fan base. I do fully understand the argument of we haven't had a good season in a long time. We finished 11th in League One. We haven't really been that mean to you. But anyway, moving on to the next goal. Only 6 minutes later, Dave, Edwards is going to score again. Sears down the left, Ward overlap, plays it inside. Bishop arrives. He kind of he tries to control it, and then Sears takes the shot. O'Connell blocks, and everyone's asleep except Edwards. Dave, I'll just parlay in a question from Mark, who is our sort of colleague in the ITFC Unrestricted podcast. You can check that out. Has the experience and overall quality of Stephen Ward been undersold? The player who's contracted to a Premier League club less than 18 months ago and has 50 Ireland caps. If you can just touch a little bit on Ward, who had a hand in both of the goals, Dave.
Yeah, I thought he was great. Yes, his service, very rarely puts in a poor ball, doesn't he? And always seems to choose the right ball as well. I mean, for the goal you just described there, ball fell on his left foot, and it would have been easy for him to wrap his left foot round it first time and just put it in an area. But no, he had the experience, got his head up. Great late run again from Bishop to pick that run out from Bishop. I think he's been very good. I really do. Him and Sears. I didn't think Sears had his greatest game yesterday, but yeah, you can see certain combinations. Going back to Harry's analogy of a couple of years back, combinations within the team. And there was, I think twice, certainly in the first half, he played, these first time balls, 1-2, cut right through them, get Sears to the byline. Experienced player. I think he's been fingers crossed, been a really good signing. Really good signing. Experience and more experience in the team as well.
Joe?
Yeah, no, I agree with regards to the experience, and it's the same with, I'd say, Chambers and Scouse. I know that like players that they probably play 500 games in the Championship.
Yeah.
That just buys you so much time, and while they've done that in the Championship, Ward's done probably 250, 300 games in the Premier League, and that is just a totally different level. And if you've done that, you're so much quicker in your brain than everyone else around you. You know what it takes to be on it. You know what it takes to be fit. You know how to treat your body. You don't get to that age and playing that many games without being a serious pro. And like I think Ward, having done that in the Premier League, is just a massive difference. You don't want too many old timers in your team because ultimately they don't all have the legs. But like I say, you need a sprinkling of experience in there, and when that experience is from the very top, it's a massive help.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've lost Skews. I'd say lost Skews. Skews is still at the club, obviously, but Skews isn't. Let's face it. If we continue in the same vein, then pray we do. Skews isn't really gonna feature that much, is he? So again, you've got another experienced head, alongside Chambers on the on the pitch. Yeah, his delivery. He never puts in a bad. Well, look, 3 games in, but just his delivery is superb, absolutely superb. Surely he could take a free kick.
we mentioned it over the 5 or 6 years of the pod. Lack of Premier League caliber experience. Sort of Sears 15 minutes or whatever it was back in the day. So yeah, much welcome. In comes Flynn Downs, stage left, and leaves one on one of the Rochdale players on 70 minutes. Joe Stubbsy asks, assuming he gets into the team soon, how many times will Flynn Downs get sent off this season for his hot-headed behaviour? We should add, the only red card we've seen, am I right, was the one at Cambridge?
I think so. I saw quite a lot in the under-18s. Him and Wolfie seemed to take it in turns to get sent off. But at Cambridge, yeah, he lost his head last year. And I think everyone had this attitude last year of, is he going to cost us? But he was impeccable from that point onwards. So that seemed to wake him up. But yes, I don't know what it was yesterday, because you say how he just came in and left one on that guy and he'd only been on 3 minutes. They'd already been having a running battle for that whole 3 minutes he'd been on the pitch. I don't know what happened, but
petulant.
And like I say, he really did just line him up. It was like, right, I'm going to have a go at you now. I don't know what happened, but it's almost like as soon as he came on the pitch, maybe because they were both number 21, so they wanted to be the best.
Sometimes though, I did Huddersfield Forest the other night, and Jonathan Hogg absolutely larruped Harry Arter in the first minute. And but apparently that goes back like 3 years from Bournemouth versus Huddersfield. And so sometimes they've
George Santos and Andy Johnson.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sometimes they've met before in a darkened alley, haven't they? Dave, we see the game out 2-0, a third successive 2-0 win. 53-47 in Town's favour on the possession. 15 shots apiece. Obviously, whenever we read stats, we need to point out to some of our more closely listening listeners that these are just some stats and they help us address a little bit more of the context of the game. We're not saying they tell us exactly what happened. 15 shots apiece, 7 corners to 3 in Rochdale's favour, 5-4-2 passes to 4-6-1 in Town's favour. Dave, tight game decided by a couple of bits of quality or inability to defend, a couple of bits of quick passing?
Maybe, yeah. I think the class, the extra class told, and it's a shame at 2-0. I think Joe said it. When Norwood came on, I think it was you, Joe, said on the WhatsApp there that Norwood could help himself to a goal or two here today, be good for him. But we never really threatened much after that. That was slightly disappointing because at 2-0 they were there for the taking, I think. And if we'd really stepped it up, there was 4 or 5 for us there yesterday. I think they'd gone. I think Mills made the same sort of comment doing with Brenner. But no, good performance. I think we always had something in hand there. And I think important, at 2-0, if you are going to see the game out, we saw the game out with not conceding. Yeah, there was 1 or 2 crosses went across the box and stuff like that. And they did have one in the net, but which was clearly, marginally, comfortably offside in today's standards. So, yeah, good. You only beat what's in front of you. And I know there's a question coming up about perhaps the quality of who we've played so far, so I'll defer that. But, 2-0, not conceded again. Be nice to have seen Hawkins very unlucky. Be nice to have seen a forward get a goal, because so far all our goals have been from either central wide midfield players and an own goal. So, nothing not to be too unhappy about, I would have thought.
Joe, how does this stack up with last season? And we've spoken about the one up front, and Dave's just mentioned, if the wide players are, if you get 30 goals from, the 3 across the front,
takes the pressure off.
What's your take? Just your read on how this game was won.
I think we won it by just having more quality and creating better chances because of that quality, and also it's sort of something that wasn't the case last year at all, is getting men in the box. And like I say, when you see the goal, Edwards' goal, the ball is played into, it's sort of played across to Bishop. Bishop rolls it into Sears. Sears is in the box, Bishop's in the box, Hawkins is in the box, and then Edwards is in the box. Like I say, how many times last year did through an open play move did we end up with 4 or 5 players in the box? Very, very few. We just did not take the risks and push the men on of having the fullbacks up there. And yeah, it does leave you a little bit more open at the back, especially when both fullbacks are, well, within a few days both fullbacks will be 35 years old and they've got to get up and down the pitch. But ultimately, we're going to get out of this league by scoring more goals than we did last year. And there isn't as many teams, especially with all this COVID that's gone on and all the budgets that have been hit, that are going to have the quality that they did even last year. So it's a case that we just need to keep attacking, and we probably will get punished less as well.
Perfect. Right, before we go to the questions, let me just do a couple of plugs here. As ever, you can support our lovely podcast absolutely for free by following on Twitter. We're trying to make a bit more effort in the Facebook, which I set up years ago and post about once every 2 years down. So you can subscribe over on YouTube. As I said, we're going to have live streams in the midweek. And if you do want to support our ventures financially, look, there's about 8 of us, and there's not actually that many Ipswich fans. So no one's trying to make a living out of this or be greedy, but you can support financially via the Acast support feature. If you go into the Acast app, which I would recommend for your podcasts anyway, you can make a financial donation there, or via Super Chat on YouTube during our live streams. As I say, it just helps out. We've had to subscribe to this StreamYard technology, which is another monthly cost. We've all got mics and they break. We've all got Ethernet cables, and they stop working and all of this stuff. So it's just a little help to hopefully help us bring you a show that's hitch free and as high quality as we can. Let's do some questions. Dave, I love this one because it's not got a little dig at you, but it's I'll read it. Dave Gort asked, does the settled formation and selection formula make last season even more frustrating, or well done to Paul Lambert for learning and changing? DD answering a bit of both isn't allowed. That's outstanding.
Yeah, it's outstanding. I mean, I think the main difference is that we've said all along, certainly me and Joe have said it, is Dazelle is now a settled side. It seems to be a settled side, especially across the midfield. You've got Dazelle there playing the deep role, pulling the strings. I love to see it. Now getting a run in the side. I think he's played pretty much every minute of every game. I don't even think he's been pulled yet, Joe, has he? I'm not sure.
Downs came on from him in one game.
Okay, well there you go. But look, he's starting every game, which is what he needs. Now starting to show he's really true. And again, you've now got pretty much, I know again he's not finishing the games, but you're getting an hour out of him. He's getting stronger and stronger, scoring goals. You got Teddy Bishop. You got now adding Teddy Bishop into that equation from last year. Powerful running from midfield. Great to see. Yes, as you just said, Joe. It's brilliant just to see someone from central midfield bursting the gut to get in the box and actually getting ahead of the bloody ball, which is what we didn't do last season from midfield. So that's great to see. So that's been a big factor for me. And yeah, and Lambert is, fair play to him, is sticking by that. So as I said before, so far so good.
Joe, this is from Paul. He says Hawkins done enough in that performance. Thought his hold up and link up play was excellent. A goal would have capped a really good game. Where are we looking? Just can you do a quick analysis of the striking roster, because Caden Jackson, yeah, like we say, the second Josh King goes out of Bournemouth, they'll probably do that deal, won't they? Norwood, Dave's already mentioned. Not sure what's entirely going on there. Just talk to me about Hawkins and then the striking roster.
Well, I thought Hawkins, was really good yesterday. At Gillingham, I don't know why I keep saying, at Bristol Rovers last week, he just didn't look like he had a goal in him. He got involved, but he just looked so indecisive around the box and like he didn't have a goal in him, where yesterday that really wasn't the case. I thought he looked sharp. He looked sharp around the goal. He should have scored the header probably, but again, he didn't really do a lot wrong. He got on it, he headed it well, and it took a really good save to keep that out. And the shot that hit the post, he gets involved.
Great effort. Wow.
And I know it's sort of lazy cliche, but he is a target man at 6'6", and or 6'4", 6'5", whatever he is. But he wins his headers, but not just that. He runs the channels well, and when he gets on the ball, he holds it up and allows players to come into play, whilst also then getting himself straight back into the box. He isn't one that gets out wide and then wants to stay out wide and start building play. He gets out wide, he gives the ball to who needs it, and then he gets back to where he needs to be. So he really does. And it was similar to how Drynan was playing at the start of the season. They understand the role, they understand what they need to do, and they understand that they're sort of a cog in the machine. They're not the player that needs to be on the end of everything, where I think sometimes Norwood feels like he's the one that needs to be on the end of everything, where that isn't always the case. And I say he just hasn't looked, I don't know, he just doesn't look fit. He looks overweight still to me, Norwood, and I think he needs to work harder to get himself back in the team. With regards to the striking options, we're down to those three, aren't we? Where it is Norwood, Hawkins and Jackson. Well, Hawkins is the one with the shirt for me at the moment. Jackson just isn't going to suit that role at all, because he just cannot play with his back to goal. His game is about running the channels and running from out to in or in to out, whichever way he ends up. But I know, I just think if we can get a decent fee for Jackson, I would take it. As good as he was last season, I thought he really, really improved and had a really good season. So it's not a case of I don't rate him. I just don't think he's going to fit with what we're trying to do.
Joe, anyone likely to come through at all in that department?
Not really, because like I say, obviously Drynan's there, and then you've got Morris, who's out for the year, but he'd probably be one of the wide strikers. Then Ben Falami, who seems quite a way back. I think he could play that role, Falami, but he needs a game somewhere else. And then below that, Tyrese Simpson, Zach Brown.
Yeah.
There are players there, but I don't see any of them making that leap. I
just think in League One, detrimental League One, I just think I like that unit up front. I like that focus, and I think he's ideal for us. That sort of type of player we cried out for last season, for Christ's sake, and perhaps I sense in Murphy and his goals and stuff. But yeah, we just haven't had that focal point up front for a few seasons now. So I think at that level, yeah, like to see it. And exactly what my Portsmouth supporting pal told me a few weeks ago. He said, yeah, mixed. He said, bit Marmite, he said, but he said overall he'll do well. He'll do well for you.
David, this is from Scott, and I suppose it's in the back of everyone's mind, isn't it? Given how well Ipswich started last season and then tailed off, is this a false dawn or something to get excited about? What is the likelihood, Dave, more or less, that we get a similar pattern in performance than we did?
I'm not. I think we've got a more settled side and a more sort of readily identifiable pattern to us, system to us now. I think. I think in time the centre halves will change. Whether Wolfenden comes back in, is Joe what is? Is he fit? Is he fit, or do we know that?
There was an update last week where it sounded like he was basically back to training.
Okay. Oh, right. So he's not quite ready then. Perhaps if he's back to training last week. So I think the centre halves will change, but. Yeah, it still goes back to me until you really play someone. Look, we've played, Bristol Rovers, not bottom. Rochdale, okay, it's early 3 games in, second from bottom. Wigan, albeit what a win yesterday. But
and then Dave, MK coming next as well, the 22nd.
Yeah, MK. I mean, we looked at the fixtures, and I've still got those first 6 fixtures written down here, and we all said, okay, let's look at Charlton. And I think we said if there was 5 games preceding the Charlton game, which is the 10th, I think, of October, maybe that's the 5th game, I can't quite remember. And I think we said, we want a minimum at least, 3. Yeah, I'll take 3 wins if we're going to have any sort of season. Early day, 3 wins and a draw. So we're on our way to that. I think let's see when we start playing the likes of Charlton, who we think maybe will be up there come the end of the season. That will be a tell for us. I think that really will.
I'm going to take this one if it's okay, guys, because it does pertain to the Championship. Lower North asks, feels like our young crop are coming into their own at last. Keep them together, go up and be strong enough to hold their own in the Championship and entertain. There's a big difference between hold their own and in the Championship when you have young players that star, they're kind of after one and a bit seasons, they start to be worth 7, 8, 10 million quid. I did a video. Joe will probably know a lot of these names from studying the academies and stuff. I did a video of 10 to watch and had Callum Stiles and Max Bird, obviously Troy Parrott and Reece Norrington Davies loaned down, Adam Eder, Michael Elise, Tyrese Campbell, Ben Cabango, João Pedro, all sorts of different. But there are some very, very good young players in the Championship. However, if you come up and they are the sort of centre of your team, like we've seen teams do before, then there's hold their own, there's entertain, and there's what I look at, be able to sell for massive amounts of money, which is probably most useful. Joe, where would you put someone like, if we were to go up, Andre Dezelle with Max Bird or Michael Elise or Adam Eder?
It's difficult because our young players aren't as young as a lot of these.
No.
Because a lot of
21, only
2021. What you find with the Championship is a lot of players come in, they burn really bright, and then all of a sudden they're linked with everyone, and then you never really see how good they are because they just become so highly rated so quickly that everyone just assumes that they're brilliant, and there's not really much account taken to them sort of having dips in form. Where if Andre plays this season as we want him to, plays all through the season, leads us to promotion, signs a new contract, when he's up in the Championship next year, and if he starts well, by that point he's played 100 games, so that you might not be buying as much potential, but you're also buying a player with a much lower floor because you're buying a player who has shown that they can do it over a long period of time. So I'd put him right up there because he is a player that has played international football at every age group as well, and he is one that has those. He just has a ability to pick a pass that
he's different.
Sort of probably 90% of Premier League players don't even have the way he can pass a ball. So it's just finding a way that you can play him, which hides his weaknesses and just shows off that strength, getting him on the ball in a position where he can get on the ball. And like I say, some of these, especially at Derby, some of the young players they've got there are unbelievable. But it's just a case, if you can get them playing and you've got a young core of players, you've always got one that you can sell. And when you need to cash in on one, you can sell them, and they're going to be worth proper money, which they're just not at this level.
And you're totally right, Joe. We're at the point now where a Premier League club can literally afford to sign a Championship player for 8 million quid as a project and say, okay, come and train with us. If it works out really well, we'll stick you in the first team squad. If not, we'll loan you out. And if not, we'll just sell you back next season, take a 3 million quid loss whilst we collect our 100 million quid TV money.
But you look at someone like Matt Clark at Derby, obviously formerly of this parish, but Brighton signed him for 4 million quid, 4 million quid pre-season, send him out on loan to Derby, player of the year at Derby. Next season, go back to Derby. Derby probably paying a 7-figure loan fee to have him there, paying all his wages. And so by now, Brighton have probably not spent a penny on Matt Clark now.
Incredible,
he's still their asset, and he could end up being 2-time sort of championship or Derby player of the year.
Yeah.
This is the not very good Premier League team who also had Ben White on loan to Leeds, and this season also have Leo Østigard, who's a centre half on loan at Coventry as well. It's just a totally different. And in Premier League terms, they're not even very good. Do you know?
They'll be happy if they come 15th this season.
Yeah, quite. That was the kind of.
They were shafted somewhat yesterday. That was interesting, wasn't it? I don't think I've witnessed that before. Anyway.
Right, so Dave, we've mentioned it, and I was there yesterday at the Primark outside the MK Dons Stadium. It is MK Dons next week. Currently 22nd, Dave. 1 point from 3 games, 2 defeats on the trot. Lost 2-0 at Crewe yesterday. Give me your 11, Dave. Who's playing in this one?
I would not change a thing. I don't think he will. If everyone's fit, I don't think he'll change it. Why would he? I think a Bishop came off yesterday, but a standard Bishop substitution, was it on about 65? Was it something like that, Joe? I don't see them
67.
changing. I don't see them changing anything really. Why would we? If everyone's fit. And a free week this week, no midweek game as well. So someone I would hark back to the previous question again. You forget that just because again you forget him. The other factor, of course, is Kane Vincent Young. He's fit. I mean, when he's fit, fully fit, there's obviously going to be some changes because surely he's going to come pretty much. Although I think Chambers has done really well at right back, surely he's going to come straight back into the side. But yeah, there's some weird messages coming out about Lambert. Came out with some strange message about his fitness this week, didn't he? Saying something, even mentioned. I'm not sure he actually said. I think it was perhaps Stuart Watson or someone asked him, well, let's come up with some sort of plan here. Is he going to be back before Christmas? And he certainly didn't say he wouldn't. He would have. He didn't say he would have, wouldn't be, didn't he? Yeah, a bit cagey about that. Odd again, very odd.
I'd say, that's a big thing with Vincent Young, and it seems like this Achilles is being managed very, very carefully, and hopefully in the long term that proves to be the right decision. And while we're winning games, it is. I'd say I probably wouldn't make a change, but if Wolfie's fit, I'd be looking to get him back in the team as soon as possible, because I'd say as well as Enciala and Wilson are defending, ultimately if we want to play out from the back, we can't really afford to have 2 stoppers in there, and I say and it's almost like those two are battling to be the stopper and to play alongside Wolfie for now. And who's got that edge at the moment? Probably Toto defensively, but ultimately yesterday we dropped both centre backs into the penalty box to take a goal kick, and Rochdale just left them there. They sat 35 yards up the pitch, and rather than, I think, like in any normal game, if you've got Luke Wolfenden in there, you just give him the ball and then you just bring him up and bring their press out. But there, we dropped both centre backs in, and then we still went long with the goal kick. And it's like, well, if you drop centre backs in and they're under no pressure, you give them the ball. But Wilson and Enciala between them aren't as comfortable, and I think we do need to get at least one ball player in that back two, potentially even 2 ball players come the end of the season. But I just think with Toto and Wilson, you need 1 stopper, not 2 stoppers, if you want to play it from the back, because it just, like I say, you see the damage our midfield is doing to these teams when we've got nothing behind them to play it through. You haven't got a defender slotting the ball through the lines to give them a bit more space. Our midfield are sort of killing teams when they're playing against two banks of four with one sitting in between them, which is promising. When that becomes sort of a bit more of a sort of a messed up formation because we've managed to pull them about a bit with our defence, what damage is our midfield going to be able to do at that point?
Interesting. Cool. Right. I think we are all there. I didn't say thank you to everyone for putting the questions in. We're all kind of once bitten, twice shy at this point with three straight. Do you remember when I used to start the pod by going, everybody just calm down, Dave?
Calm the F down, didn't you? You did, yeah. I remember
everybody
that.
Calm down. But yeah, so we'll try and sit on this, having seen our propensity to get very important players injured for very long lengths of time and last season's collapse. But I didn't say thank you for all the questions coming in. As ever, follow on Twitter at Blue Monday ITFC. The questions tweet will go out hopefully straight after every game this season if you want your question answered and to get shouted out on the podcast. Obviously, now you have the supplementary outlet that in midweek we will be doing the live stream. So you can come and join in live. And I have heard an as yet unconfirmed rumour that technical Luddite and Blue Monday podcast legend David Diamond might possibly...
Oh, me? Yeah, sorry. That was. I've got to tell the listeners, that was on the pretext. Ben said, well, do you fancy coming? I said, yeah, I'll come on. He said about on occasion, it hasn't. My internet here, and it should be. There's my router. I have to get an Ethernet cable. Yes, all right. Try and get one.
We've got BT Openreach sitting outside the window on call.
It's like there. Unbelievable.
So anyway, it's good news that people asked for David. We'll hopefully try and give them David during the week. I'm not sure who's on next weekend for the MK game. I think it might be Mikey. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Mikey.
If I open my WhatsApps, I will find out. But thank you, everybody. Joe, have you got anything to plug or a last word?
Not really, no. It's difficult with the academy stuff at the moment because all games are behind closed doors. So not only am I not able to get to any, I can't even get any secret squirrels there reporting for me. So it's just, I think the under-18s lost 4-1 at Charlton yesterday, but that's about all I know about the game. So it's a bit frustrating on that side of things at the moment. But I think there is actually a game that under-16s are playing at AFC Sudbury on Thursday night against Sporting 87. So if anyone wants a fix of ITFC, get across there for the under-18s midweek cup game.
Wow.
I heard Bielsa had got press accreditation. He's going to be scouting. He's going to be scouting that one. Dave, any last words or anything to plug?
Yeah, just not a plug for anything personal, really. Other than I noticed there's a new Bobby Robson book out called The Ultimate Patriot, written by I think his really good friend and confidant Bob Harris, who's written not whispering Bob Harris of the old grey whistle test fame, I don't think. But so that's always good. And also, I meant to say this before. Have either of you seen this? I'm not sure who's doing it. Someone's putting out the Ipswich 80-81 scores out on Facebook as they play every game. So correspondent with the date back in 80-81 of the actual game on the day, and they're putting it out in the BBC football style. You know how they normally put on the games now. So a big shout out to who's ever doing that, because I'm really enjoying. Obviously, I'm really enjoying seeing all those. I think it was Wolves away today, and we won 2-0. Obviously,
we try and find out.
Brazil and Mariner.
Find out where that is, and if you let me know, Dave, we'll tweet it out from the.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, we'll do.
Blue Monday account. Right, thank you guys. You can follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom, and if you have any remote interest in my championship content that I've carried over since our lovely days up there, you can find some of that. Right, thank you everybody for watching, everybody for tuning in. We will likely be back in midweek, I think possibly on Wednesday, with a Q&A live stream that might even involve Mr. David Diamond, but we'll finalise such plans. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.